Good day, my name is Angelo and this is Channel Up, your most preferred channel where we give you updates on true crime, mystery and lifestyle. Thanks for joining us. I have an update on one Mr. Ehis Lawrence Akime on issues relating to transnational fraud cases. All right, I have a comprehensive examination and a sort of expository update on what Mr. Lawrence Akime indulged in that would know this time around as cybercrime. So stay tuned while I drop bit by bit and I digest every moment of this particular crime and as it was perpetrated. Now, the Ehis Lawrence Akime case first came to light in early 2023 when multiple elderly Americans reported suspicious inheritance claims to the Federal Trade Commission. Akime, a 41-year-old Nigerian national, orchestrated a sophisticated fraud operation that spanned multiple countries and targeted vulnerable senior citizens. Law enforcement agencies initially struggled to connect the scattered reports until a pattern emerged involving nearly identical fraudulent inheritance letters. Now, I would gradually break down the mode of operation of this Mr. Akime and his fraudulent style. Now, Akime's criminal network employed a carefully crafted system of deception. They sent professionally written letters to elderly targets, falsely claiming the recipients were beneficiaries of unclaimed estates. The correspondence included fabricated legal documents bearing the letterheads of legitimate law firms. Victims were instructed to pay various processing fees ranging from $5,000 to $50,000 respectively in order to access their purported inheritances, which were said to be worth millions. All right, one thing about the pattern of this type of fraud cases is that they have a pattern of selecting their victims and a sort of style of psychological manipulations. Let me take you through. The perpetrators specifically targeted seniors aged 70 and older, recognizing this demographics' potential vulnerability to inheritance scams. They exploited common psychological triggers, including the promise of financial security for loved ones and the emotional appeal of long-lost family assets. Many victims reported feeling special and important when first contacted, making them more susceptible to subsequent requests for payments. The operation maintained cells in 3 continents with coordinators in Nigeria, money mules in the United Kingdom, and front companies in Spain. This international footprint allowed the network to quickly move and launder stolen funds while making investigation and prosecution more challenging for any single nation's law enforcement agencies. Now, somehow this could be seen as money laundering. The group utilized a complex financial web involving shell corporations, cryptocurrency exchanges, and traditional banking channels, as I would call it. They will typically funnel initial payments through US accounts before transferring funds overseas. Bitcoin became increasingly favored for later stage transactions due to its perceived anonymity, with over $2.3 million processed through identified digital wallets. Now, what were the challenges faced by law enforcement agencies during this investigation? Authorities faced numerous obstacles during their investigation, including jurisdictional limitations, differences in international banking laws, and the sophisticated use of technology by the perpetrators. The Federal Bureau for Investigation, FBI's Cyber Division, spent nearly 18 months mapping the network's structure before they could identify Akime as the mastermind behind the operation. So, all said and done, let's check up when the breakthrough on the case came up. The investigation turned up when agents identified a pattern in the fraudulent letters and the metadata and connected them to a specific printer in Lagos, Nigeria. Simultaneously, financial analysts traced a series of transactions to accounts controlled by Akimie's relatives. These discoveries allowed prosecutors to build a kind of comprehensive case linking the various elements of the criminal enterprise. Let's look at the extradition process and the legal hurdles involved in this case. Akimie's arrest in London in late 2024 triggered a complex extradition process. British authorities initially hesitated, citing concerns about potential human rights violations if Akimie were sent to Nigeria instead of the United States. The process required extensive diplomatic negotiations and the presentation of overwhelming evidence before the UK finally approved the extradition in March 2025, that is this year. The Southern District of Florida trial featured testimony from 37 victims, forensic accountants, and cybercrime experts. Prosecutors presented a trove of digital evidence, including email trails, financial records, and intercepted communications that clearly demonstrated Akimie's leadership role in the criminal network. Then, what else? He was sentenced. And I will break down the judicial rationale for you. Now, in imposing the 22-year sentence, Judge Alicia Martinez emphasized the calculated cruelty of targeting elderly victims and the international scale of the operation. The punishment was designed not only to penalize Akimie, but to deter similar transnational fraud schemes in the near future. The sentence was one of the longest ever imposed for elder fraud in United States history. During sentencing, the court heard emotional accounts from defrauded seniors, many of whom lost their life savings. One 78-year-old widow described how the scam left her unable to afford medication, while another victim had been forced to return to work at the age of 82 to cover basic living expenses. Now, when authorities swung into action to recover these stolen assets, all right, authorities managed to seize approximately $1.2 million, I beg your pardon, in assets, including luxury vehicles and Nigerian real estate purchased with stolen funds. However, the majority of the $6 million in losses remained unrecoverable, particularly the portions converted to cryptocurrency and laundered through complex transaction chains. The case directly influenced several policy changes, including amendments to the Elder Justice Act that strengthened protections against inheritance scams. Financial institutions now face stricter requirements for verifying unusual transactions involving elderly customers, particularly those related to supposed inheritances. The successful prosecution demonstrated the potential for multinational collaboration against cybercrime. The case established new protocols for information sharing between the Federal Bureau for Investigation (FBI), UK National Crime Agency, and Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC). Now let's look at one aspect that that normally gets unnoticed. There is always an involvement of tech when it comes to fraudulent activities. All right. Now listen. Forensic analysis revealed the criminals and their sophisticated use of technology, including the use of virtual private networks (VPNs) to hide their locations and digital tracks, automated mail merge systems for mass fraudulent correspondence, and cryptocurrency tumblers to obscure transaction histories. Given the high profitability of such frauds and historical recidivism rates among financial criminals, Akimie will face strict monitoring upon any eventual release. His co-conspirators have been placed on international watch lists to prevent their involvement in similar schemes. Legal experts note the case sets important precedents for prosecuting transnational cybercrimes, particularly in establishing jurisdiction and applying U.S. laws to foreign nationals operating partially outside the country. Now, victims having been found out would actually receive support and restitution. While financial restitution remains limited, victim advocacy groups use the case to secure additional funding for elder fraud support services. This includes counseling programs specifically designed for financial crime victims. Now, on the ongoing investigation, authorities continue investigating potential connections between Akimi's network and other known fraud operations. Some evidences suggest possible ties to West African cybercrime syndicates responsible for romance scams and business email compromises. So, in conclusion, I will give a conclusion which seems to be, or which is my personal perspective on, let's say, justice and what I would call a kind of systemic failure. Now, follow me gradually. This case lays bare the uncomfortable truth about our global system. While justice was technically served, the real victory remains very hollow. Akime's conviction provides closure, but it does not erase the irreversible damage done to hundreds of elderly lives. What disturbs me the most isn't just the cruelty of the scam, but how easily it exploited systemic weaknesses. Gaps in international law, inadequate financial safeguards, and society's neglect of vulnerable seniors. The harsh sentence feels more like performative justice than what I would call actual reform. Now, we celebrate these prosecutions as victories, yet the same schemes continue under different names and different modus operandi. Now, the $6 million stolen represents more than just money. It's trust eroded, dignity stripped away, and a fundamental failure of institutions meant to protect citizens. Until we address the root causes, global inequality, weak cross-border cooperation, and financial systems that prioritize profit over protection, these crimes will persist. Akimie is in prison, but the system that enabled him remains intact. Please, if you've been following us and you've been enjoying what we do here, why don't you like our videos, share them. Don't forget to drop comments for us in the comment section. If you're watching me for the first time, tap the notification bell and tap the subscribe button so that when I drop a new update as important as this, you won't be left behind. Wouldn't you love that? See you next time. Bye.